You should stand up and do the old finger like they do for the media. Okay, we'll call the Municipal Airport Authority Commission to order, and we'll start by taking roll.
Shawnee.
I see him. Is your mic on, Dean?
It should be.
There.
All right. Rashani.
Can you shut it off?
I can.
Ekman.
Here.
Osgood. Here. Capitan. Here. Berg.
Here. So the next, it would be to approve the minutes from the last regular meeting. Everyone had a chance to look at those, or?
I move for approval.
Okay,
Second.
second. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? We can just take a voice vote on that, can't we, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, so if any in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay, motion carries. The next, we're going to approve the order of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions that anyone would like to put on?
Mr. Chairman, item 3 on the consent agenda, I'd just like some clarification in this moment in the regular agenda.
Would you like to pull that off?
Yep.
Anything else?
Could we add RFPs under new business or business at the end?
Sure. RFPs. Okay. Anything else? Just do a voice vote on this then, I suppose. Many are in favor, signify.
Need a motion.
I move for approval as amended.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. I suppose if anyone voted nay, it wouldn't be a consent agenda. Okay. What's that?
Yep.
Yeah, so now we'll take the consent agenda. Give everyone a minute just to look through that. Anyone have any questions? So number 3 is removed off. Okay, is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve consent agenda. Okay. We'll do a roll call vote.
Rashani.
Yes.
Berg.
Aye.
Ekman.
Aye.
Osgood.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. And then we'll move to the regular agenda. Let's start with number 3 from the consent agenda. We approve the MOU with the City of Fargo regarding special assessments. Sean? Or
Yeah,
John?
we talked about this, and it does appear there's been some language added. What I was concerned about is we're mixing 2 things in the MOU, and that's the city's support of the airport and the payment of special assessments. I'm not sure we want those 2 things linked in the MOU. And so it does add that as it was originally written, that if the city didn't allocate mill levies, the airport wouldn't pay special assessments. The city has other funding sources, and sometimes less specific in an MOU is better than more specific.
Let's go to that MOU.
Yeah.
That's number 3 on the agenda.
Number 3 on the agenda, if you look at number 1 in the MOU on page 12.
Okay, that's the second page of the MOU,
Yeah.
number 12 in our packet.
Right.
Okay,
And its funding sources there.
under there.
I'm just not certain we want those 2 concepts linked in the MOU. Because the city could decide to fund the airport out of other funding sources, which this now accounts for but I think we're a little too detailed in here. The MOU is, I believe, trying to set forth a concept under which to work, not as specific as this is getting.
Who prepared this MOU? Did you do it, Stacy, in the city?
The city did, and then I reviewed and made some changes, and then at the last meeting is when we had the discussion about other funding sources, so I went back and
That's for me to speak.
further amendments, and then sent it back to Doug Durgan at the city.
So we're kind of, what you're saying, John, is we're tying our payment to the specials to receiving the 2 mills.
Well,
That's,
that's softened a little bit, but but what we're linking two separate situations, that the funding of the airport by the city could be done in a variety of ways. And we started to account for that with the or other sources, but I just don't think we want that quid pro quo between them. That we backed ourselves in the corners there. Of course, it's identified that it has to be sources approved by FAA, which we all understand, but
Well,
And
Doug,
it says tax revenues approved by the city for allocation to the airport authority with funding sources. So it does give the city the ability to use whatever funds they so choose to privatize the airport.
Yep.
So I think we addressed what was mentioned in the previous, the city is more than comfortable with this, they were comfortable with the previous one. So I'm not quite sure.
well, it does probably represent a bit of the understanding at the time.
right.
I don't disagree that there's a good question, we want to tie them together. It's probably for our benefit, not the city's benefit.
Right.
It kind of gives us the lever, right? But,
Yeah. Well, and again, it's just a memorandum of understanding, but sometimes these things, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, start to get strict interpretation, cause trouble. I'm okay with the addition.
So is the sentence that's troublesome, the one?
let's just go with it.
Okay.
If we want to change it, we can always change it. It's probably something we want to look at when we go into next August or September when we're going through the funding again.
Well, and trying to look into the future and see, who knows if property tax are outlawed.
Well, and I think too, if we're still looking at going to a regional airport, that's gonna change this whole thing.
Yes.
I mean, then our deal is with the region, not with Fargo.
Yeah.
So,
It just, to me, like I said, I was concerned that we were taking a very specific funding source, matching it to a very specific use for the airport. I don't think that's the intent.
Well, I think that's a good point. Thank you for reading this, John. All right, any other comments on the MOU? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So move.
Okay, Jim made the motion, Paula seconded it. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Not, we need a roll call vote, Joan? Okay, then we'll go ahead and take a vote to accept the MOU.
Rashani,
Yes.
Ekman,
Yes.
Cosgrove,
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Berg.
Okay, then we have the January financials. Tana, are you on here?
Yes, good morning. I am on here. If everybody can hear me okay?
Well,
Yep.
also congratulations, Tana. I
Oh,
understand you're stuck with us for a while longer.
or you're stuck with me. I don't know, I'm excited.
Good.
All right, can everybody see the screen okay?
Yes.
All right,
Really good.
I changed the financial recap just a little bit I know we tried to, dwindle it down to one page and make it very easy to understand. So I broke the revenue into three pieces: parking, aeronautical, and other. And other is the rentals, the commissions, things like that. So preface it by saying the audit is still not complete. That should be at next month's meeting, and then we'll make some adjustments to the 2025 financials. But for January, we were slightly above budget overall in our revenue. Our expenses, we were slightly below. Our interest income, we are a little bit above budget yet, but we know as the terminal project goes and we keep using those funds for the terminal and the parking, our savings is going to come down. So by the end of the year, I'm thinking our interest income that we budgeted should be fairly close to where we end up. So where we're sitting for January right now, we are about 390 above budget. The passenger traffic looked really good. We don't have the February number. Yes?
Could you back up one slide and just explain the operating margin? So is that like a rolling plus or minus as we go forward?
Well, the operating margin, really, it just takes into account the interest income. So if you're talking operating margin, that's just like your profit and loss.
Okay.
So it will be, right now, the current year equals the year to date. But when we do February's next month, it'll have like the current month. So it'll have February's month, and then it'll have year to date, which will include January and February.
Okay, thank
you. So that's just our plus and minus in the budget. Like I said, our passenger traffic, we don't have the February numbers yet. Our January traffic was up over 2025, an increase of about 2.4%. Randomly, I'll just throw in some extra passenger tips, just statistics. So on the far right here, not sure if it's easy to see or not, but I included some load factors broken out by the airlines. And so the load factors is basically the capacity that they're full and the market share that they have. So the load factors are very strong. And that's something I believe that Darren tracks monthly. So I'll maybe just kind of share it with you quarterly and just put it in here. The KPIs for the airport, the key performance indicators.
Can you make that a little larger, Tana?
Yep. So our employment, right now we're forecasted to be higher than the previous couple of years. Our airline revenue growth rate, right now we're forecasting 16%. I mean, that's just based on employments are going to go higher. So we assume the car rentals will go higher, the commissions, everything kind of builds off of the passenger employments. Especially with the terminal opening. So I see that going, but this will be a year that we have to realize with the terminal opening, we've budgeted the expenses the best that we can, but it'll be really interesting to see how those expenses actually come in and how they're tracking over prior years. Just a quick recap on the parking ramp. I know Commissioner Berg, you wanted. We have a ton of KPIs on the parking ramp. So at one point, maybe we just need to sit down and kind of narrow in on what you guys really want to see. But for right now, I just included the occupancy rates. So we have it actually through February, which I think is great. So for the ramp, we were at 82% capacity in February. Our long-term surface was at 72% for February. And our east and west economy were 70% and 40%. So nice to see that the parking ramp is, the percentage filled is really ramping up. And now that we have the first floor open and stuff, those statistics will start building in there as well.
Hey, Tana,
Yep.
I think if you were gonna consolidate that, I mean, we're most concerned about the ramp because that's kind of the new parking thing. So maybe that, and then maybe just add a column on there of the total parking. So we have the,
Sure.
That might be easy to keep track of that.
Okay, I can do that. All right, so for February highlights, we had approximately 289,000 increase in parking revenue over February at that point. And our ramp occupancy was at 82%, so very good. Just some quick charts I threw in here for the parking in the terminal. You guys can take a look at those. Everything is tracking. Joe updates me with the cash
Need to make that
forecast
a little bigger, Tana.
every month. And so as we sit now, we're tracking pretty much where we thought we would be this whole time, between that 55 to 65 million out of pocket. And this is through January. And so we continue to request reimbursement from the FAA and the states on all of the grants on a monthly basis. And like I said, our terminal, I don't see any concerns with. It's following plan, as well as the parking. The parking is tracking the same too. We are at about 39.4 million of the $40 million Bank of North Dakota loan. So we're getting close to our limit on that. And then from there, everything else will be out of pocket for the parking. Anybody have any questions on the financials or?
Any questions for Tana? Okay, thanks, Tana.
All right, thank you.
So the next item would be update from, okay,
One question.
just hold on. There's been a motion to receive, and then let's have a second, then we'll have discussion.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
go ahead, John.
Just real quick, Tana, I think the state funding was cut back by 15 million. Are we anticipating that 15 million coming back in this forecast at all, or?
Right now, it is not built in the forecast, and I don't know if Sean has heard any additional updates from the FAA, if that's something in the next biennium that we would be eligible for or not.
That was North Dakota.
That was North Dakota, yeah. I don't know, Tom, I don't know if you have any update. I know we've talked with Kyle and with the FAA. Tom was ear to the ground. I don't know that it's gonna be possible in the next session.
Well, just going back to John's question, you know, we were asking for 60 million, we got 45 million, which was a little bit unexpected. So I guess the question is the 45 built into this formula? And I don't think we ever built in the 60. Can you address that, Tana?
Yes, you are correct. We all, in our forecast or in our conversations, we always had thought 60 million is what we were going to get. But as I built out the cash forecast on those grants that were conditional or not guaranteed, we only budgeted 50%. So we were really only budgeting the 30. So to get 45 played into our forecast perfectly.
So it should have been 45 and 60, not 45 and 30.
Right, but when we did the cash forecast, we only forecasted that we would get 50% of the original 60. So our forecast initially just showed 30
Okay.
instead of the 60. And then once we were confirmed to get the 45, the forecast was updated to the 45.
Okay, John?
Yeah,
question?
I don't want to lose track of this because at the time they adjusted us from the 60 down to the 45 and picked up some other projects. The indication from the legislators was that they would replace that 15 million in the next biennium. And I think we need to keep that front burner
Sure.
for our legislators. Representatives.
No, I think that's a really good point. I mean, part of that process was Grand Forks got a chunk. Dickinson was kind of fully funded on their request.
Yes.
I think, was it Minot or someone else was?
That's great.
Yeah, so I think, we should push to be back in the queue there.
Yep.
That other 15.
I just don't want that to kind of slide away from us.
Yep.
Because the agreement originally with the 60 was that would be supported by all. We supported the funding of other
You know the
airport
legislature
private-
better than anyone else. We'll take care of you next session.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So we maybe want to discount that 15 by 75%.
well, anyway, I just think we need to keep it
Yep.
In front of our legislative delegation and the state. That was kind of the working agreement going forward, as I understood it. Now, if that wasn't, but otherwise, I think that 15 million should be in play here.
Well, I think as we go forward here, we should get clear what our legislative agenda is going into the next session with the Aeronautics Commission. And so that's probably a point that we can raise with them. Any other questions on the financials? If not, we have a motion and a second to receive and approve. Any other discussion? Let's take a roll call vote.
Shawnee.
Yes.
Ekman,
Yes.
Osgood,
Aye.
Capitan. Berg.
All right, we'll move to number 9 on the agenda. Greg,
Here. I am here.
so where are people supposed to
Yeah, I was
speak?
gonna ask, where's the appropriate place to
Your
stand?
side is fine.
Okay, perfect. Well, good morning, first and foremost.
Why don't you stand up there, then everyone can kind of see you.
Sure. Was able to fly into the terminal yesterday, so I was able to see all the improvements you guys have made. So kudos to this board for the leadership. You have the presentation, perfect. With getting all that done, and obviously the parking ramp is what we're here to talk about today as well. So as promised at the January meeting, here to talk about the revenue for the parking ramp, but also talk about the plan moving forward with respect to rates, but also 2 programs we'd like to introduce to you regarding the parking ramp and the long-term surface lot as well. Yeah. So yeah, Tana touched on some of this already. We peaked at 82% occupancy in the month of February. So kudos again to this board for holding steady with the drive-up rate at $25 through our peak period. As we talked about at the January meeting, that was not necessarily an opportune time to adjust rates because obviously the demand is there right now, and we want to kind of stay steady at that rate until the right time as we get into the spring and summer months. So looking at it again, I won't harp on what Tana touched on, but I do want to call out at the very bottom, you see the variance compared to the projection that we had previously. So starting in January, we started out performing the forecast, and you see that's at $6,000 for the month of January. The month of February, we outperformed about $65,000. So we're headed in the right direction. March is our true peak month, if you will, and so we expect that number $65,000 to even be higher for the month of March as well. So we're starting to make up for the slower start, which we always knew all along was going to be, getting the word out, messaging, and so forth. But you can see on this slide, we're obviously outperforming what you guys forecasted when we submitted the budget previously. Next slide. One of the things we did decide back in October as well, at one of the meetings, was to how could we kind of start to look and get out in front of identifying what price would be a good price point for the drop-up rate. And so back then we introduced dynamic pricing for the month of October. We set guardrails at that time and said, okay, look, we don't want to go below $19 with dynamic pricing. And so you can see the demand starts to kind of, increase at that point in time. But then around December, we also came back and said, well, let's remove some of these guardrails and see what the real price point should be. And that allowed us to go down as low as $15 for the parking ramp, depending upon your stay duration, which at that time was 8 days or more. We also didn't want to, overinterpret the data by looking at the demand for December and January. So that's why if you see the 39% line going across, that accounts 100% for our time there where we're not doing our peak season. And so the other 7 to 8% accounts for true demand that kind of came in based off of us getting into our busier months. So 39% of that is not skewed. That's 100% based off of us dropping the price. And people saying, hey, I'd rather pay for this elevated level of service based off the price point there. And so we'll continue on, and I'll kind of get to the rate that we're proposing as well on the next slides. Right here, you see once we started to fluctuate pricing through dynamic pricing, revenue went up by 38%, bookings went up by 29%, and the average transaction value went up by 5% as well. And then that graph to the right just kind of shows you on a line chart that once we did that in January, obviously occupancy by day. And again, this is limited to reservations, but it still gives us an idea of where the price point needs to be. Started to trend upward as we drop the price as well. Also, one other thing I like to call out in that red box, you'll see parity now between the stay duration mix. Before it was heavily skewed on if you stayed a long time, then you had more occupancy, if you will. But based off these transactions here and based off of slowing the rate, there's more parity between even shorter stay durations as well. And keep in mind, at this point in time, we didn't have the short-term ramp open. We just opened that about, 2 weeks ago or so? Monday? Okay, a week ago, sorry. So that data was not included in this, but just looking at the long-term ramp, there's parity between the stay durations. And so that's always a good sign as well, and always is indicative of lower rates for your drive-up rate as well. Next slide. Again, we talked about the gap between the highest priced product and the next product in line, 56% between premium reserved and the parking ramp. As you see with dynamic pricing, we kind of close the gap as you go to the right on this graph with that price point. And we also want to do that though with the drive-up rate as well. Make sure that gap is not too big and individuals don't pick the lower price product and never get a chance to experience that elevated experience of parking in the ramp. And so this is what the recommendation of $22 per day for the drive-up rate does. It actually closes the gap on that. It also reintroduces the price that you had set for the short-term service lot before we started construction for the ramp as well. And it's something that's familiar to folks. And again, there should be some delta and difference between the elevated experience you have with the ramp, but we also don't want it to be just cost prohibitive in those summer months where folks may not mind walking from an economy or a long-term lot as well. We'll still have dynamic pricing in our back pocket to go as low as $15 per day if needed. But again, no matter what, you're always going to have a certain market for reservation customers that you're not going to be able to engage with those transient parkers. So for transient customers, we always want to make sure that the rate is still not cost prohibitive, and we feel $22 gets us where we need to be for the long-term rent. Next one. This just kind of shows you over the 2 years, 24 and 25 that we sampled, the share of transactions between those two. You'll see long-term went up a little bit, 2% if you will. Economy went down. That's indicative of, again, people upgrading to the elevated experience of long-term from economy. And we want to do the same thing for people to elevate from long-term to the parking ramp. And so that's what this does. By closing that gap from 56% to 38% on the price point, that'll help introduce people to that elevated experience and say, hey, let me treat myself, reward myself, and park in the parking ramp. And
Can you make it a touch larger, Greg?
can you increase it a little bit? Zoom in a little bit?
Oh.
Yeah.
Thanks. Better.
Thank you. So yeah, it just closes the gap on that delta between premium reserved and the drop-up rate for the parking ramp, closer to 38%. And then the other two products, the delta between those is 33% as well. So the recommendation again for the rate, $22 per day. We'll still have dynamic pricing that'll allow us to go as low as $15 based off stay duration. We'll obviously expect transactions to increase as well, but this keeps us engaged with the online public that's doing reservations, but also the drive-up traffic that we see that does not necessarily pre-book in advance. Next slide. Next one. So yeah, all of this is important, but obviously unless we market this correctly and make sure that we get the word out, it doesn't mean a ton, if you will. We've had continuous conversations with the Flint group even before this initiative, but for this particular matter, and Sarah did want to be here today, but she did share with me some of the things that we're collaborating on currently and plan to collaborate on, approving, if the board approves these next steps. They currently use all the channels that you see there to the bottom left e-newsletters, social media, digital design, signs, press releases, website, online display, paid search, social media, radio, and print placements. The ones we really will target with what you see on the screen is the digital sign at the entrance, letting people know that, hey, the rate has changed. It's a lower rate now. But we'll also do some online presence, social media as well, that you see to the far right, sending out blasts in advance. This is very similar to what we did when we actually opened the parking ramp, getting the word out that it was coming, it's opening in August, and so forth. So we'll work side by side with them again to make sure that individuals know the drop-up rate is down from what it was previously. And they'll also work side by side with our marketing team to make sure whatever messaging we submit and send out, they'll be submitting the same messaging with the same tone and so forth as well. Next one. Obviously, pre-book is a good portion of our business as well. So this is actually a Google ad campaign and spend that we would like to also present and get approved as well. The thought here is how can we make sure that we continue to grow the pre-book program? We just topped $100,000 in revenue for 1 month for pre-book. And so this airport is actually, reservations has penetrated about 15 to 20% of your transactions, which is a good sign. And so we want to continue to press that and get individuals to book in advance. But it also helps from an operational standpoint. We know the answers to the test in advance of who's coming in, how many are coming in, so the team can manage those peak periods as well. This would allow us to actually go in, create a custom URL. So when you actually do a search online and say, hey, I want to park at Fargo, I want to park in a ramp, I want to know what my parking options are, this URL will come up and allow you to do your reservation. That's how we're able to quantify the return on the investment. And so the total spend over this entire 12-month period would be $16,000. You can actually cut this off or stop at any point. Like if you see, okay, look, mission accomplished, we're doing a good job, we're good to go. But just looking at the 12-month period, you would spend $16,000, but the revenue returning to you would be $256,000. So obviously that's a pretty good ROI. So for every dollar you spend, you're getting approximately $15 to $16 back based off the investment. It shows you the number of clicks, number of impressions. Impressions are obviously how many people you're actually engaging with. Clicks are how many people are actually going through the process to actually pre-book and make a decision. And then obviously you got the spend and then the total cost and then the sales and revenue that you would generate from that. So we did this previously for the valet product as well. The ROI came back positive on that, and we'd like to introduce this as well as we roll out the lower price point for the spring months going into the summer as well. Next one. So last time I was here, we talked about the corporate Parker program and disabled veteran program we're gonna talk about next. We covered like why do a corporate Parker program. Obviously, it's really to make sure that the businesses in the Fargo market remain loyal to this airport, but also, even if they are loyal to the airport, we want them to park with us and not necessarily take another mode of transportation when coming and flying out of this airport. So the recommendation today is to follow the contract model. I kind of laid out different models to you previously. This essentially means you identify the top 5 to 10 corporations, businesses in the area. You talk to them and approach them with a standard, simple contract, setting the rates as what you see below, $18 for the long-term parking ramp. This aligns with what the dynamic pricing rate could and should be based off of standard stay duration, but they would get this rate based off of any stay duration. That's the difference. Whereas with other stay durations, you have to kind of exceed 8 days in some cases to get that lower price point. Long-term surface lot, $10 per day as well. So it essentially gives them flat rate pricing. They know the answers to the test again as well. They can identify what they're gonna pay when they have to do their travel. It helps them with budgeting, but it also makes sure that, you know, if they're on the fence between a different way of coming to the airport, they'll pick to park with the airport as well. And so this would be in direct communication with the travel managers for these corporations and businesses. We do this at other airports as well. A lot of state travel.
Do you sell this to the corporate?
Yeah.
You're actually reaching out, making
Correct.
contact with the.
We would call them and say, hey, look, we're gonna talk to whoever does all your travel. We wanna first quantify how much travel you do. because there is some criteria, we wanna make sure that, it's worth the juice is worth the squeeze, right? But yeah, we're 100% directly in contact with them, managing it, making sure that they get that rate and so forth. We do it for state travel a lot, but we do this at several airports just to make sure the business parking stays at that airport.
And then you directly bill the corporate
Correct.
individual.
We do it both ways. Some corporations say, look, we want the employee when they travel to go ahead and pay at the time. And so we just set the rate at exit when they're exiting, after we check the criteria to validate and make sure that they're part of that corporation. Most do prefer, like you stated, let's just bill us in arrears and we'll take care of it all at once because they're getting reimbursed in most cases.
And then Greg, do you take into account the companies that are already have a reimbursement program in place? I know several people that fly with companies and they always choose the ramp because they are reimbursed at the current rate.
Yeah, we do, but again, it's really to get those individuals that may be still traveling through the airport, but not necessarily parking at the airport. But yeah, 100%. And that's why I spoke to, like, most prefer the bill in arrears option, just because it just takes away from the time consuming nature of doing the reconciliation and getting reimbursed, and then the employee having to actually have that spend up front and get their money back from the corporation. The corporation can just pay for it on the front end. That's just time and saves everybody a lot of headache.
Greg, are there any qualifications? How do you determine who you're gonna enter into a corporate rate with?
We work side by side with the airport and the board and just identify the key corporations here. Again, size of the corporation matters, but also, are they even traveling, right? If you're a big corporation, but you're not traveling, well, there's no use in doing this. Kind of to the point that was just made. If it's only a handful of people traveling and they're paying the driver rate today,
Yeah.
we wouldn't go, with a corporate Parker program and get less money. It would need to make sense. It would have to have a certain number of people. We would kind of model it after some of our other airports that we do this at that are similar size to Fargo.
Greg, are you able to capture that data? I mean, can we find out which companies are flying?
Yeah, we would, again, the first step is identify the companies we want to target and reach out to their travel managers. Most travel managers will share their information with you if they know you're considering something like this, right? And so they'll give you that data.
So the other thing is, we're trying to leverage that effort. What we're trying to do is understand what our customers, what are we doing well, what can we improve on? And so I just think that might be good, that those people that you enter that corporate agreement with, that we use that, again, to really find out their experience really in the whole airport. So I think if you're thinking about that, whatever those companies are and those people that are flying, I think it'd be beneficial for us to try and figure out how we can get their kind of unfiltered opinions of things so we can improve the experience, so.
And we could pair that with, I know we've talked about it at the board before, like a comprehensive survey of all things Hector International Airport. And we could kind of pair that with that as well and survey.
Yeah, that'd be, that's not your job, but that'd be great if you could help facilitate that.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think it'll improve the number of people that use Hector as well.
For sure,
So,
sure.
thank you.
You're very welcome. Next one is Disabled Veteran Parking Program. You're fine. So yeah, one of the key components with this is we obviously want the disabled veteran to be parked. We want them to be at least 50% or more disabled, and that's per the federal government, if you will. So they would have a identification that states that they're disabled veteran. DAV is kind of how the plates are recognized here in Fargo or North Dakota. Purple Heart and POW plates would be included as well. Again, this is common standard practice for the DV programs we have, mainly across the southern states, Texas, Louisiana, but so we would definitely want to make sure that those plates are included as well. I'll go over the workflow of what it would look like from a procedural standpoint on the next slide, but we would not want to open this up to pre-book or reservations, and that's common as well. There's not many or any pushback with that. But looking at the price points, instead of just waiving the fee, well, I think we like to start with 50% discount for the long-term service lot, 25% for the parking ramp. And then, given the economy lot is not staffed, so to speak, it's an automated lot to where you enter with a ticket, you exit and pay for your ticket on your own. We would kind of hold back on rolling it out at that location just yet, until we had a system in place to where we could actually discount it. We didn't want to get in the business of individuals leaving, then having to refund them their portion of the parking fee that they shouldn't have had to pay for because they were a disabled veteran. Looking at LPI data, this would not be a huge hit financially based off the number of disabled veterans you have parking today. And that's why we kind of wanted to start and get our feet wet, with these discounts, which this is similar to what we do at other airports as well. Once we're able to roll out the economy lot, we can probably look at doing some type of free up to a certain number of days, based off what we align with at other airports as well. This would be limited to 30 days, which is typically the tipping point where you want to kind of tell us that you're parking longer than that. And so if you park up to 30 days, those discounts would be eligible for disabled veterans that park with you. And it just shows our thanks for their service and how we appreciate them, all that they've done for this country and so forth.
Greg, do we have an idea about how many monthly this is gonna entail?
Well, I did a snapshot. Again, LPI data is done daily here,
Yeah.
meaning we take every license plate and see what we have. It was a small portion, 20 to 30 plates, so it wasn't a lot. Now, again, this was a sample that was taken back in February. So it wasn't a full comprehensive look. That could change in any month.
Right.
But still, even starting at that number, it's not a large hit.
And the discounts, I mean, is it worth, instead of just giving free parking under the program, is it worth trying to collect 50% or 25%?
I just always say you could always scale down. That's what we found. To your point, I understand where you're headed. Like, do you just yank the Band-Aid off and get there? I think we, again, new program, start this way. It's much harder to start free and then come back and say, oh, you know what, this is actually more now than we thought. Because you're gonna pick up some new individuals that are not parking now.
Right.
Because it does cost, and they're paying the drop-up rate today. But currently you have about that number of individuals that don't mind paying the drop-up rate. But I do see that number increasing once you say there's a discount, or potentially if it's free completely.
Yeah, just get a second.
I think the economy lot is the best way to do it, but we just gotta really have the technology there and or staffing there to where we're not issuing refunds, because it just can get very cumbersome to have to always issue refunds and they'll wonder why do you have to issue me a refund after the fact?
Well, yeah, I mean, it just would be a lot easier just.
Other questions for Greg? Any other questions for Greg?
I do.
Okay, Paula?
Okay, thank you, Greg, for this presentation. Could you email this to the board?
I sure can.
Okay. Say, Greg, I noticed, I just used the website to book for my trip. And I noticed that the logo online is you're still utilizing the old logo. We've had our new logo for a year and a half. And when I print out a ticket, it still says the old logo. And online, it still says the old logo. So I'd like you to address that. The $6 to $8 disparity that you mentioned at the January meeting, where the parking garage shouldn't be, or the parking ramp shouldn't be more than $8 more than the next offering.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, when I was just online to book my week vacation, my long-term parking rate was $70 had I chosen that, $168 for the ramp. So that's well more than double to park in the ramp. As we're addressing these prices, are you recommending that we raise the price then in the long-term parking? Or is there a way that we can stagger so that the spaces that are closest to the ramp are a little, reflective of the location.
Right, so reservations is not gonna hold true with the $8 statement that I made. The $8 statement applies to the drive-up rate. And so if you look at the drive-up rate that we're recommending at 22, the next price product would be 16, which is premium reserve. And that's the closest to the ramp. After that, then it's long-term, which is set at 12. So that falls in line with the drive-up rate pricing disparity that we spoke about in the, I think it was January, February meeting.
And can you
Dynamic
get-
price, yeah.
Can you get that premium reserved at a drive up, or is that only
It's only
reserved
it's-
online?
It's only online, but the other thing that we were concerned with as well, if we adjust long-term right now, at the same time we address the drive-up rate for the ramp, we may introduce an element of people leaving long-term and downgrading to economy. And so to avoid that, because both of those products are performing really well, to avoid that, we said, let's just start with what we kind of came into this to address, which is the drive-up rate for the ramp. You still have dynamic pricing there, as you just saw online where you did a reservation. So you could get a price, depending on how long you're staying, as low as $15 for the ramp, which then puts you right there within, $3 of the long-term service lot. So this is the starting point, similar to kind of how we said, let's hold the prices where they are back in January. Like, we don't want to overcorrect right now and then end up having people downgrade to a lower product as well.
Okay, because if I'm driving up right now, it's the $12 for the long term,
Mhm.
$9 for economy, 25 for the parking ramp. So to me, that seems like a pretty big disparity.
Oh, 25 for sure, and that's why we, went through this and said, let's start with the 22. Again, get reservations even more than 15 to 20% of the market. And then that way we can kind of educate customers and say, hey, if you really want to get even less than 22, you can get almost the same rate based off your stay duration, obviously, as a long-term service lot. But we also don't want to erode revenue as well by adjusting too much. Keep in mind, you had 22 set for the short-term surface lot prior to starting construction back in 24. So again, we don't want to get too low.
Okay. One idea for a promotion could be like a 1 week or several days in the parking ramp.
Mhm.
That wouldn't cost the airport too much. And that would be an opportunity to promote the parking ramp. And the other thing I noticed is the promo code. One thing that's been mentioned here and there in the past is how we could maybe give a discount to Fargo residents, whether it's a one-time discount or, but maybe a promo code could be utilized in a way for something to say thank you to the residents of Fargo who've continued to support us through their tax dollars.
No, that's a great idea, and we've used promo codes previously, not here, but previously, so we could definitely do some type of promo code if that's the desire and wishes of the board.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
The presentation is in the board packet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, other questions for Greg? Do you have another slide, or was this kind of wrap up?
It just showed the workflow, but you saw that at the previous meeting of what essentially the cashier would do to validate the disabled veteran at the exit. That's all. But yeah, I was wrapping up and asking for your approval on the corporate Parker program, disabled veteran program, and then obviously to lower the drive-up rate as early as May 1st for the long-term parking ramp.
Thank you.
Greg,
Thank you.
John?
and I've not been on the website to try this, but if you build a parking widget for our website that enter your dates, here's your lowest cost options in each of the areas.
Let me explore that with the team.
I mean,
yeah.
because everybody's used to with airline tickets going in and trying to find
Seeing their options.
their options and the lowest price. And I've never liked the term dynamic pricing. Is dynamic doesn't it can mean more as well as less.
Sure.
And so if we're gonna have discounts, let's call them discounts. But that's just
Yeah, everybody speaks that language, you're right. Yeah.
but I would think as part of the whole process, they're coming in, they're buying a ticket, everything's planned, if you had a widget on the website that said, what's my lowest cost parking options?
Well, rolling this out May 1st gives us the runway to kind of do those type of things and also make sure we message it to where everybody understands it. So yeah,
And
let me
yeah,
explore
then
that.
Paula's comment to the promo discount
Mhm.
to Fargo residents, we've never really acknowledged that, and so that might be an interesting way to build that thank you in.
For sure. Okay.
So I'd like to say, Greg, thanks for your work. I mean, obviously, you're making the right decisions as we're evolving. And I don't think as a board, we wanna debate what the rate should be on the parking ramp or long-term. And so I think, again, I just want to show you my appreciation for what you've done. And we want you to have the flexibility, so you're not waiting for a board meeting to kind of do this. So I guess that kind of goes back to, the other thing on our agenda, we really say receive the update and consider approval of each item. I think it would be helpful for the board if we were more specific in what is it, the motion that we want, just as we're preparing these minutes going forward. And so I think, from my perspective, I think basically the motion would be to accept your recommendation. But we don't wanna say we approve this rate and this rate and this spread, because we wanna give you the flexibility to make the right decisions. I mean, we're aligned, we both wanna make more money on parking, right?
For sure.
So I guess, unless someone has another motion, but I would just say the motion would be to accept your recommendation at this point.
So move.
Okay, Jim, is that second? Okay, moved by Paula, second by Jim. Is there other discussion? And I think we all have Greg's email and we have Greg's phone number. So I think there's been a lot of other ideas brought up. I think feel free to reach out to Greg directly on that stuff. I mean, I'm always fascinated by things that seem like a simple change for me. And when I talk about the big picture with Greg, you change one thing and it affects a whole bunch of other things. So I think
Exactly.
the way you're looking at that, again, to try and maximize revenue, but also serve the public and the customers, I appreciate that balance that you're wrestling with.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, Jim?
Just a point of information, a friend of mine who's a commissioner in Cavalier, we all went to Washington DC for a legislative conference. And he came down here and he said, your parking ramp isn't big enough. And I kind of looked at him like, what? He said, I drove through all 3 floors, or 4 floors actually, and there was not a space to be found. So he had to go out in the long term and park. I just about dropped my.
Well, we got room for another one, Jim.
Yeah, we do. So,
Good comment.
but I never thought that would fill up that fast.
No, I mean, look, but I'd be remiss to just not mention, we have a great team, obviously, joined by Brad Gregerson in the back. He's been working with this location for many years as well, brings institutional knowledge from just south of here, where I know we do a lot of mirror comparisons between. So, no, we appreciate your support. It's definitely been, that delicate balance of making sure that we serve the public the way we should, but also making sure that we monetize this operation as best we can as well. So I appreciate the comments.
We have a motion on the table to accept the recommendations. Any further discussion? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. We need a roll call vote.
Rashani,
Yes.
Ekman,
Yes.
Osgood,
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Berg.
Okay, so just kind of a heads up, our goal would be to finish the meeting by 9:30. So I think we have Mead and Hunt on the terminal, we've got Stroh. So really what we're looking for is anything that's changed, anything unique, and kind of heads up.
All right,
So, Mary?
thank you. Good morning, everyone. Just things are going smoothly on the terminal expansion. We've heard some really positive feedback from people who have flown in, and especially about the SARA room, the service animal pet relief. And so that's a really beautiful little room if you get a chance to look at it next time you're flying. As far as the ongoing work, they're framing an MEP rough-in is happening down in the first level in baggage and in the ATOs. And then demolition is well underway on the existing terminal, and the framing will be starting up soon on that. Ticketing is finalizing, and the punch list is scheduled for March 23rd. Brett Berry will be here to do that walkthrough on that date. And otherwise, that's really the update. Everything's on schedule, and the work is happening fast.
I have a funny story. I flew out about a week or so ago and I stopped in the gift shop. And the lady at the gift shop said, you know, I had a elderly woman that left Fargo in the old terminal, came back to Fargo in the new terminal, and she was all stressed out and walked into the gift shop and said, is this Fargo? She thought she may have gotten on the wrong plane in Minneapolis or something like that, so congratulations.
Yeah, very big difference.
I think the other thing that, you know, there's been a lot of different comments on, you know, now that it's actually there. And I think as a board, we may want to gather those and have a time where we can sit down and just recap some of those things from, as, you know, as board members. So maybe think about how we could accomplish that.
Absolutely, like kind of a debrief on how things are being received. That would be fantastic.
Maybe we can do that next meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just one thing going forward, the white tile with the white grout, comments I've heard there is that it's really showing, you know, melted snow and dirt in the same way the carpeting colors in TSA after a month are looking pretty worn out and dirty already. Is there a plan for that?
I've been talking a little bit with Sean about maintenance and some other things, and so we're looking into that.
Any other comments from Mary? I think if there's, I mean, those would be good things for us to share with Mary and kind of understand. Jim?
Is there any plan to kind of remodel the employment in the old part at all? The biggest comment I had is they come from this brand new area and they leave from gate 2, which is kind of dark and dreary now. Is there gonna be some plans?
That's all closed off, so yeah, the old part, gate 2, 1 through 5, that's all closed off.
Okay.
Remodeled. We used gate 2 for a period of time until the bridge from gate 1 was moved to gate 5 in the new area.
All right.
Once that was accomplished, that was all closed down and demolished. Yeah, that was just a transitional couple weeks or so.
Okay.
Other comments? If not, thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
And then,
Joel's here.
Joel?
Morning, Joel at Telstra. The cladding on the underside of the skyway has been installed along with the light fixtures, so that's complete. We're still waiting on glazing and some framing for the curtain wall system that goes on the east and west side. The roof is watertight now, mostly complete. We can't do the parapet metal obviously until the curtain wall system is installed. The handrails have been installed on the interior of the ramp, except for a couple spots where we gotta penetrate into the parking ramp, and then I think they're installed actually on the east or the north side. And they're currently working on reinstalling the insulated panels on the underside of the canopy where it ties into the skyway at the terminal connection. There's a lot of part and piece fitting to do there, so that's taking a little bit of time, but it's coming along pretty nicely. So.
Are there any issues that we should be aware of?
Not currently. The other thing they're working on, I know it looks kind of like slow progress and you can't really see on the inside because it's within a shelter, but they've also been currently installing some of the supplementary tube framing in the existing truss system that the curtain wall system ties into. That's kind of ongoing. It might even be done by now. I'm not sure. They were working on it yesterday.
Any questions for Joe? What's the completion date?
next December.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
We'll move into old business. We'll start with a safety update.
Got another employee that bumped their head, working in the baggage system area. We bought some additional pump hats for them to wear, like a baseball hat, trying to alleviate that. They did bump their head doing that, but that's the only thing that's happened since the last report.
Okay, so then we have hotel update. I guess my question is this just informational or do we need a decision?
Informational.
Okay, okay, well, give us the high level stuff, Tom. Okay,
Your
thank
mic's
you,
not
Tom.
on.
Let's move to the liquor license. Tom, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Modern technology. The hotel committee met a couple of weeks ago. We finalized just the general guidelines and general information we wanted to convey to the contractor. For the last 2 weeks, I've been trying to get a hold of Josh Schmaltz, the representative for the developer. I don't know if he's out of town. I've left him probably 8 messages, a couple of emails, a couple of texts. I went to their corporate website. They don't have a phone number listed, but I did leave a message to their portal. So as soon as they get back to us, we'll be setting up the hotel committee to meet with them directly, and then they will submit a new proposal that outlines exactly what they're going to be bringing to the airport authority for approval.
When will that be, Tom?
I'm hoping as soon as we get a hold of the developer, I would say we'd give them 30 days after that meeting. So I would say in roughly 45 to 60 days.
Okay, so you'll have a better update for us at our next meeting.
Correct.
Yeah. If you need help getting a hold of them, let me know.
Will do.
Anything else?
That's all I have for you today.
Okay. Liquor license update. John, do you wanna?
Yeah, real quickly. Our existing license, Class A license, requires segregated alcohol serving area. It appears that temporary area is too small. And so, Sean, I don't know if we can do it administratively, but make a request in the city, or we could just move and put more area into that.
So Darren and I met with Steve, the local manager. He worked with Terry Northern, the regional, and we gave them a line to move that further to the east in the Gate 5 area. All they have to do is move the stanchions, and they will do that when they need the space. Okay, so that's already been addressed. It's not a concern any longer.
Because it seems, we're already kind of running out of space there.
It is a temporary situation, everybody has to understand.
Well, anyway, the point is they can move that, so that's great. I think the other issue is where do we go with this longer term, right?
And then the other is, do we want to go forward? Do we want to request a new license? And my recommendation would be either the FA license or the stadium license. FA license is a bar and restaurant combined. Think of an Applebee's type arrangement where you can have a bar, but you can also have alcoholic beverage services with food in the throughout the whole establishment. Would be more flexible. The stadium license is what you're going to see at the Fargo Dome or the Sanford Health Athletic Center or Shields Arena, that allows service and then larger areas in which consumption can take place. The option for this board is, what do we want to do? We're going to operate temporarily under the existing license. Do we want to start the process, or do we want to wait?
You kind of need a decision, which license do we want to go after?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess, do you have a motion?
I do not have a motion at this point. I would ask the members to kind of think about a stadium license, and the thing to remember is the stadium license would offer the most flexibility to the airport in how they want to operate. it does not require you to provide service to the full extent of the license, but it gives you the option.
So
So,
we can scale it back however we want.
right, so with the stadium license, you'd have the most options, and then you'd have the ability to adapt to it. Really what we're gonna be asking for is an existing license, either the FA, I think we qualify for, very simply. The stadium license, we might have some deficiencies and might have to ask for exceptions from the commission for that license.
So, I mean, is this something we could decide next meeting?
We
Maybe.
can certainly decide next meeting. I don't think we'll be changing service until we're set up with the opening of the area, remodel area.
Well, what do we need to do to be in a position a month from now to make a decision?
Well, I think each of us have to have an understanding of what they would support.
Stacy?
Thank you. My intent was going to be to create a memo. What do we have now? Possibility of what the FA license would mean. And you basically have gotten all of my notes here. And then whether we would have to look at designing, and this has been discussed, a liquor license particular to the airport. So I think those are probably, and then the stadium license, which there would need to be some modifications because we don't meet the seating requirements. We're low by about, I think, 400. And so my intent would be to create a memo for you all to review
Right.
to say, this is it.
So I would say that'll be great if we can get a memo out to all our members, but I would also say we should probably get, not that anything's set in stone, but get a recommendation, maybe from you and John on this is what we recommend to vote on to move it forward.
Well, homework assignment then for the authority members would be to kind of go and observe, if you could go to an event on the stadium license, see how it's working. It has not been a huge problem. And there you have an area that serves alcohol, you allow people with their drink to a different area, sit down and consume it. We got bogged down in a bunch of things. How do we stop handoffs? How do we do all these things? I simply think we come back and say, we've already got procedures established at Shields Arena, at Sanford Health Athletics, with Fargo Dome. If we go and we ask for that license, we say we're gonna comply with this, and that.
So I would say, is there any other information that committee members would like?
I would say, is that with the meeting that we had with the city officials, including the captain or whatever his position was, that the airport, the police department has provided pretty significant concerns about this idea of handoff, even though we are the safest, most secure facility in the city of Fargo. I think we need to address that. And then another thought I had, because we are talking about the possibility of different licenses, do we engage the auditor's office, Angie Bear, who's been very helpful at, what they'd be willing to consider, and her association with the Liquor Control Board.
Well, no matter what we do, there's about 10 issues below that. I think what we need to do is make a decision on the big picture. What do we want to go? And then when we do that, we're going to get feedback from everyone else. And if they can't resolve it, they're not going to allow us to do it. And so I think rather than just continuing, when we've talked about this for about a year, I'd like us to be prepared next meeting that we're either going to vote for a stadium license or something else. So, and obviously what we decide is not final, but that then they know what we're asking for. Does that make sense, John?
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing about the stadium license is we sort of degenerated into a debate of service area with remote consumption. That's already been solved by the entities that have the stadium license. And so I think if we come back and ask for a stadium license, knowing that we have to fulfill all the requirements the existing stadium license has, we're in I think, a very straightforward situation. The major deficiency is you need 1,500 seats. So we put a bunch of folding chairs up, 300 folding chairs, and we're good to go. I think there's about 1,200. So, but that, you know, that would allow us to go in, make the request, know what we have to comply with if we want to provide a different type of alcoholic beverage service, the same as they're doing in those arenas now. And if we don't, you know, we don't have to do that service.
So I think just to kind of wrap this up, we'd like to know what are our 2 or 3 options. We'd like a memo that addresses that, get that out to the committee members, and then next month we'll make a decision.
So at this point,
Mr. Chair?
expand it, yeah.
I'd like to suggest that, so we'll have the memorandum and we'll be ready to make a decision on what the board's going to request. So can we be on the liquor board agenda for next month? So after the meeting, we're on the agenda so we can move forward in a more expedient way. And then also I would just like to reiterate that although this situation currently is temporary is a whole year. That's, you know, in essence, 590,000 passengers in a temporary, you know, let's do the very best we can to continue to serve our passengers despite it being temporary, because temporary is still a year. So yes, keep our eye on the prize for, you know, the long-term goals, but let's not ignore the immediate needs of our passengers.
Good point. Any other discussion? Okay. Let's move on to the Arts and Amenities Committee update. Is Ivy here?
She dropped off or not?
Okay, let's go to the Marketing Community Engagement CFO position.
Yeah, just that you already announced, Tana accepted the position for the CFO. She's gonna start on or about March 23rd unless a grandchild gets in the way for her. And then Madison Anderson, who's currently at the Fargo Air Museum, accepted the Marketing Community Engagement position, and she'll start on April 6th. So those are the 2 new positions, and we'll get them onboarded and gone through the background check, physical, everything is done, and just wait for them to arrive, get their equipment together, computers and desks and everything. So that's all that's there.
Thank you for following up on those positions. The other, Paula? Or who?
Sean, do we need a board approval to send Madison to a marketing conference?
No, it's gonna be too soon for her to do that, so we'll wait until the next one comes. Would just be too early for her to do that.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the RFP. Paula, you brought that up. You wanna explain that?
I just wanted to follow up on the board decision last year about implementing RFPs every 5 years for our vendors. And we had a timeline.
Yep, as previously reported 2 times prior.
Hold on, Sean. Is there anything else, Paula?
I was just, I know that we had talked about spring implementing some of those RFPs, and we are rolling right into spring. So I was just wanted to follow up on that timeline.
So Paula, are you just looking for what is our schedule and what RFPs we're gonna ask for?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as I reported previously 2 other times, I mean, those are going to be in process. Once Tana's on board, we'll work more with those. The goal would be is the RFPs that we put out would start effective on January 1st of 2027. I know we have parking, we've talked about legal, we've talked about banking, engineering services is already taken care of through the FAA portion. We've talked about marketing, so those will be put together. There's still time to do that, probably advertising those in mid to late summer, making some decisions in late summer, early fall, and then effective on January 1st.
So I think maybe what you can do, Sean, is put that schedule down in writing, and then we can take a look at it at our next board meeting. I think just to make sure we're all in sync with that. I mean, I can't remember when we adopted that, like August. So I think, the intent was not to delay it for a year and a half, but why don't you put the schedule together and how you see that, and then we can.
Okay, I'll I'll update it for you.
And we'll talk about that at the next board meeting. Does that sound good, Paula?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
John?
Sean, it'd help just to have all our vendors listed too, so we know what that whole population looks like, what, every vendor that we have, kind of that schedule. Not just the ones we're targeting here in the next 12 months.
Okay. All right, did Ivy come back on, do we know? If not, we'll just defer that till next month, unless obviously it's just information. And then let's open it for public comment. Okay, we'll close the public comment.
Mr. Chair, I was gonna say maybe if Mary was still on, she could update on the enclosure for the kinetic art sculpture. I know that was one of the projects that the Arts and Amenities Committee was gonna address.
She's not on.
Let's stick with the agenda
Oh,
right now.
okay.
You just introduce yourself. Go ahead and stand up there so everyone can see.
Maybe so. President Brashani and Paula can see as well. Hi, my name is Joe Kennedy. I'm a Unify employee. I've been here since November of 2015. I work above wing, below wing, cargo, de-ice to planes. I also, in my other job, am the instructional designer for Concordia College, so I'm trained in human performance systems critique. And I say that just to let you know that I'm not just saying, oh, I saw some things I want to report. There's a lot of thought here, but also I'm not unique. Dave Gable, who was just here, literally joined at the airport the same day I did. He's with Enterprise now. There are employees who've been here 15, 20 years, employees who have master's degrees in airline administration. There are a lot of employees who have a lot of lived experience as well as deep administrative and theoretical training. I'd like to ask you to take a moment to step back. You've been really heavy into the quantitative stuff. Although we care about quantitative stuff as the frontline agents, D0, planes on time, bags to claim, things like that, we're really about the qualitative. And something you said a little earlier was that we want to know what the passengers are thinking. What do our customers want? I can't give you unfiltered opinions because, of course, I'm filtering them. But I can say that the model of communication that we engage in at this airport is not working. And I'd like to encourage a more collaborative and proactive set of communication. I'd like to use one specific artifact to point it out, and that's the new bag belt system. There are lots of problems whenever you open a new facility. So this is not like, oh, a laundry list of 50 things. There are lots of things that are getting better. Airport authorities already been like, oh, let's address this. Or people have said, wow, this is so much better than we thought it would be. I just want to focus on the overall picture. The predictions that were made by our station managers about the new bag belt system was that it was likely to initially jam more often than the old system until we worked out the kinks and came up with better practices. Just yesterday, for example, we were all instructed to start sending the bags through handle first. But for the past month and a half, we've been doing it wheels first because that was the recommendation to reduce jams. Now we're trying something different. So this is ongoing and we know that. But the prediction was also that because the bag belt is above our heads, and so now we as the employees who deal with the bags cannot touch it. If it's above our waist level, we can't clear a jam, right, for obvious safety reasons. That was going to mean that there would likely be more jams that lasted longer that required airport personnel to clear. And there is new equipment, an arm that decides if the bags go to this belt or that belt, cameras that do the tracking. The prediction 3 years ago and repeated often by our station managers was, we're going to need more people who can help clear the jams. What has happened is that we have had multiple jams that last. The response time is anywhere from 1 to 20 minutes because sometimes when it's not 9 to 5, we have to call the off-duty phone. That phone is maintained by someone who may be at the other end of the airfield shooting at geese. They may be clearing snow they may be fixing a toilet that is broken.
They're not just sitting there waiting for a jam.
Right, they're not just sitting there waiting for a jam. I'm not naive enough to think that we can afford to hire someone to sit in a chair and just wait. But we needed more people. There were some different solutions that were proposed that do not seem to have been implemented. In the past 2 weeks, we have had employees injured to the point where there was enough blood that their coworkers said, you really should go get a medical report for that. We've had passengers' bags and equipment broken because it was the only way to clear the jam was to break the hockey sticks that were there. And that was on a jam that was now up to 45 minutes. And jams like that mean that our passengers get delayed. So if a plane goes out 45 minutes late, we now have passengers who miss an entire day of their vacation because they go to the hub and there may be no further flights or no open flights to where they're going. My passengers that I've worked directly with lost a day in Cabo, a day of the resort fee, so this is impactful. And there are solutions that happen. When a jam appears to be happening, the various airline employees get together with TSA, the mechanics and engineers who are here, we just offload off the side in the old bag room. We come up with the way to do it. But that requires a lot of collaboration. And it appears, okay, so I'm not here, I'm not in the offices with Darren and Sean, but it appears that a lot of decisions are made with a more, it's called an adversarial model, but it's not always adversarial, right? But more about, we have a thing and we give it to the airline and the airline comes back with the counteroffer and parking services. But that doesn't always work. As you just noted, talking to parking services, maybe there needs to be more flexibility where they can do things and not have to run to the board every time they want to change something. I'd like to encourage more of that. Because when there is collaboration, things work better. A few years ago, we had, I can't even remember what it was, hailstorm in Minneapolis, literally hundreds of passengers who were upset here. Sean came in, put on gloves, and served pizza. Right? I remember that, and everyone who worked that day remembered that because our passengers commented on it. That when the guy in charge of the airport shows up and serves them pizza while they're delayed, they feel that they are cared for. But that was a very collaborative thing. Right? Sean could have been like, this is the airline's problem. But too often that is what happens, at least as an initial response. So I would like to use what's happening with the bag belt. I mean, we're not going to go replace the bag belt, I know that. Incremental changes can be made. But for that to serve as of how collaboration can really help. For example, talking directly to employees in some form, not just station managers. More of that. I am willing to bet $500 that if you ask, especially our Allegiant employees, is a stadium liquor license a good model? They're going to say, absolutely not. We already have to deal with people who are inebriated, getting on the flights, especially for some reason to Nashville. Right? I don't know if Sean would have wanted, while he was serving pizza, to have passengers holding a beer, upset that they're delayed for 3 hours, right? I work for Unify, and because I work for Unify, I service the Delta and Frontier products. I've also worked with the United products. We work in cooperation with the Fargo Jet Center. We talk to TSA routinely. We work with the bartenders and the people in the gift shop to make sure that when anything goes wrong, everyone's aware of it. And that collaborative model on the ground serves our passengers well. I'd like to encourage it to happen more and more formally from the board level and the administrative level. Because when it does happen, our passengers are really, really happy, even when they're delayed and even when they have to spend an extra day in Fargo waiting to get out. But when it doesn't happen, passengers are confused, and the employees are upset, and ultimately I have to think that hurts the bottom line as well. And here, because my boss has told me I'm supposed to come to you for this.
So Joe, I really appreciate you coming before us. It takes a lot of courage, and I recognize that, really appreciate that. And, I think, I've got this new gig at NDSU.
I've heard about that.
And everyone was like, well, this guy's not an academic. He's not a staff person. Why should we let him down? And kind of my comment was, good leadership can go from industry to industry to industry. And as I thought about that, the best leadership comes from the ground up. people that are working the bags have a lot more knowledge about that than our board does. And so I think going forward, you know, while I'm in this position, I would like to hear more from people that are actually doing the work. And, you know, my question, and I would say, I mean, we're obviously getting done with the new terminal, but if we should have done something different with the baggage, we might want to put in a new baggage system. Because the number one concern that we have from employees or from customers is it takes 45 minutes to fly from Minneapolis to Fargo and then 45 minutes to get my bag. And so again, the more we can streamline that to make the customer's experience better, and you guys on the front line are gonna have a lot of insight. So, you know, part of my belief is bring solutions, not problems. And so I really, again, thank you for being here, but I think we should put that in our agenda, just the baggage operations, and try and figure out how that can be improved and what needs to be done. I'll shut up, see if anyone has any other questions. John?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for doing this. It's very disappointing. One of the core items that we addressed in this whole process, going back to the beginning, was customer service. And to find out now that we would have a baggage handling system that was known previously by you and others to have problems to it, and that we spec that at the recommendation of our experts is very disappointing. Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. I don't think we can accept trying to work with flaws in that basic a system. So it's something I think we need to look at immediately. We need to get it fixed. And if we put in a system that we know is going to have problems with it, and are asking on the backside to create creative little tribal workarounds how we do that, that's not where we want to be.
To be fair, I want to be balanced here. We know that any system is going to require an adaptation of the people who work it.
Absolutely.
I do think, having talked to the man who was in charge of the vendor, the vendor's number one guy, I think his assumption was there are always people standing by the bag belts, because that eliminates a lot of the problems. Some of the problems occur just because the bags will pile up. And I don't think he understood that in Fargo, sometimes every American United and Delta employee is on the ramp at the same time, and there's no one in the bag room as more bags come back. So there are things that we guessed out.
And that's what we asked our experts to understand this airport, understand what we want to do. And probably the number one complaint we've heard is waiting for bags, and to find out that we've got a system that acknowledges deficiencies. And I understand the trial period, but we're a month in now. The solution can't be interaction with individuals, with humans in an automated system. So we need to get it fixed.
Just one thing, Joe, can you explain to them that you're talking about the outbound baggage system?
Yeah, I was wondering.
It has absolutely nothing to do with 45-minute waits for bags. That's the inbound system. That is not mechanical.
Yeah.
But that's the other side of it too. People are impatient, waiting for de-icing, probably waiting for bags before they de-ice. I guess what I'm trying to think is, what's our next step? How do we improve the input? I mean, we're the board, so it's our responsibility to make decisions. How could we gather more input from your peers so we have information on the board?
Well, right, of course, it's a delicate balance. if you say, well, we're gonna have an hour a month where people can come in, it's like, when is that hour? If you make it 20 hours, then Sean is like, well, I have other things I have to do than sit
Well,
for 20.
let me throw this out. So last year, we met with all the airline managers and we had them bring forward suggestions. And so maybe that's something we can do again. So each airline or each unit, whatever those units are, could bring their suggestions like you have or the challenges like you have to whoever you report to and have them bring them to us. And maybe we have another hour meeting with the airline managers, because I look at us as in partnership. I mean, no one cares if they have a problem, no one cares if it's Hector Airport's problem or United's problem or Delta's problem. They are just upset with the Fargo Airport.
They're gonna go to Minneapolis next time.
Right, and they have that option if they wanna drive. So let's maybe do that. Does that seem like a positive step?
Just to give you a real quick look, just so you know, our station managers, something like that is a good ask. But for information dissemination the other way, right, they're not on duty every day, et cetera. So station manager coming in for an hour a month is something they can fit into their schedule.
Well, I'm not
But we don't wanna rely too much on station managers to always be the conduit, especially if they're irregular operations when they're supposed to be at a meeting, they're gonna skip the meeting to take care. So just something to be aware of.
You're reporting to them, right?
Right.
The station manager.
Yep, so we can report to the station managers, they can bring the,
Well,
and maybe an open forum where they just post it.
Well,
Is better.
I think, again, I don't wanna create a monthly meeting for everyone. I'm not a big guy on meetings. But I think maybe we could create an opportunity to encourage them to bring the input from all their, employees and bring it to more of a listening session for an hour with us. And then from that, we can think about how do we address some of these things.
I think they're also well positioned to say things like, Joe, that's just something you have to get over, as opposed to, yes, that's a concern we should bring forward.
So I mean, there is a process in place now, and I can verify, I mean, the employees have something that's wrong with a boarding bridge or something in the building, it goes to the station managers. They report it either to the airfield supervisor or to the building. That's been in place for a long time, seems to be working. We address things when they're brought to our attention.
It's a very tactical thing, and a lot of your employees think tactically in the moment. But in terms of strategic things like the bag belt system overall, should we have a stadium license, things like that, the average employee needs a little prompting to be reminded.
So I appreciate that. I get it, what you're saying. And again, like I say, our role is to make decisions, but the more input we can have, people that are actually in the trenches, the better decisions will be made.
Thank you all for your
And with the
time.
baggage system, I mean, Mayor, I don't know if you were on
And
the
we're not
call.
gonna argue about that.
No, we're not, we're just
we're
giving you an update that the vendor was engaged through McGough and others to address the very issues that you're talking about. They're working on trying to improve. Just so you know, we're not sitting on our
I mean, I
hands.
just wanna add too, we're in between our old system and our new system. And it's that big belt in the middle that's all manually operated. Until our system is done.
Okay, again, I'm
Yeah.
not asking for
We're giving you an
anyone to
answer
say,
right now.
what's that?
So we're giving you an answer right now that
I'm not
we're
asking for
we're
the
not
answer
ignoring.
right now. What I think the issue is how do we get more input from the people that are working at the airport? And if they have ideas on how to create a better customer experience, that's part of what we wanna hear.
Exactly.
So again, I don't wanna get in, this is someone else's fault or he didn't do that or whatever. We just wanna have an idea from the people that are closest to issues. So thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Any other public comments?
Thanks for coming in, Joe. I appreciate your time and your eyes and ears and bringing it to our attention and being solution focused. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.